So, welcome to Monday's assembly. The assembly today is all about autumn and the different signs of autumn that you can see. So, I'm going to take you on a bit of a walk through Delamere Forest. Okay, I recorded bits of my walk this morning, but I thought I wanted to share this photo with you because I really like it. And this photo has got a really cool sign of autumn in it, and it's to do with the colours. I wonder if you can guess what that is. That's right. It's if you look at the bracken in the foreground at the bottom of the picture, it's that some of it is turning brown, and there's lots of leaves and lots of plants that will turn brown in the autumn because it starts to get colder, and the plants can't cope with the cold weather, so they die back and they turn brown. And then in the spring, we see the signs of new growth again. So one of the signs of autumn that we're going to be looking for, and you'll see it right the way throughout the assembly, is lots of things where you see that brown colour, that lovely, gorgeous brown colour. Lots of reds and yellows as well as the different shades as the green of the leaves starts to turn brown. And we'll see it in lots and lots of different ways. Okay, so I found my next sign of autumn. I'm going to move around and you can see behind me I've got lots of trees, but it's a bit difficult. Let's see if I zoom in on that tree. A bit difficult to see. But there we go, we've got that tree. It's a really enormous tree, and if I zoom right in on those leaves you can see the little wiggly shapes of the leaves. Now that's an oak tree, and I wonder if you can tell me what an oak tree has as its seeds. That's right, we've got acorns. So I'm going to have a look on the ground for some acorns. So if I look on the ground underneath a different oak tree, we can see some of these things. So these are our acorns, okay? And our acorns will fall from the oak tree and they will land on the ground. Now I wonder if you can tell me which animal will come and take these acorns because it thinks they're really good food. Well, at the moment Leah seems to be quite interested in them, but there's another animal. I wonder if you can tell me what it is. That's right, that animal that will eat the acorns is a squirrel. And what a squirrel will do is it will come and take the acorns, and people say it will bury them in the ground so that it saves them for the spring and it's got something to eat over the winter. And that's partially true. It does bury them in the ground so it has something to eat. But what a squirrel will also do is it buries them in the ground because the acorn is really hard, and if you were to bite into it, you'd find it very difficult, and the squirrel can't do that. And if it was to try and eat it, it would sit really uncomfortably in its tummy because it just can't swallow it and digest it properly. So the squirrel will bury the acorn in the soft ground, and because it's in the soft ground, the acorn starts to decompose, it starts to rot, and it gets softer and softer and mushier until it becomes something that the squirrel can eat. Now, the squirrel won't go back and find all of the acorns. What will happen is that the squirrel will leave some of them in the ground because it forgets where they are, or just doesn't go back to them because it doesn't need all of them, and the acorn will start to grow, and that means that the seed has been dispersed further away from the parent tree. So that's how the oak trees start to spread further and further. So I wonder if you can tell me, if you remember from an assembly that we've done previously, how long an oak tree will live for. See if you can remember. An oak tree will live for 900 years, but that's only if nobody chops it down. And you don't see many oak trees that are 900 years old because humans will chop down trees if they're growing in the wrong place, if there's things that we want to build in the way, roads or houses or other buildings, or just to manage the forests so that they're not overcrowded. And an oak tree will spend 300 years just growing, and each year there's new leaves and it grows acorns, the acorns drop and the leaves fall, and it goes through that cycle over 300 years till it gets to its full size. And after 300 years it just kind of stays the same really. It goes through that cycle again with the growth and leaves and acorns, and then over the final 300 years of its life, it slowly dies until after 900 years, it can't actually survive anymore. But you don't see that all the time because a lot of trees get chopped down. And as I'm walking here, I've come across a tree stump and somebody's chopped that down because it's actually in the way of the path. So it's been moved for a really good reason, which is that people need to get past it, and that's okay because there's plenty of other trees around it. It's not a bad thing to chop it down. If we were to chop down all of these trees, that would be a bad thing. But we've got plenty, we're just managing the forest. So an oak tree will grow for 900 years, or it will live for 900 years, but only if there's nothing around that's going to get in its way, going to be a problem for it, or to chop it down like humans. So I've been for a bit more of a walk. I'm in a different part of the forest now. I've crossed over the main road and I've come through to a different part. And if you can hear some water. You can hear the wind in the trees. There's even a bird screeching. I'm not sure what sort of bird that is. But if you look up, you can see quite a bit of sky. And actually you can see leaves on the trees, but the leaves are really, really high up. The canopy is really, really high. That's because the lower leaves have fallen. So if we look down on the ground is kind of yellow and brown looking because it's not dirt, it's not a soil, it's leaves, and pine needles particularly. So the needles have fallen off the pine trees. When we look really, really closely, there's lots and lots of different sorts of leaves that have fallen from the trees because they are a type of tree called deciduous trees. And deciduous trees lose their leaves. The leaves fall off in the autumn and then new leaves will regrow in the spring. So that's another sign of autumn today, looking for leaves on the ground. Okay. I've got one more sign of autumn for you. And here we go. Look at the ground here. You can see it's really, really muddy. And when I press down with my shoe, have a look for the water. Can you see the water by the side of my shoe? Where it's kind of squeezing out from the soil. Because there's so much rain that's come down over the weekend. And particularly on Saturday this weekend, it was really, 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 really rainy. It rained all day, really, really hard. And it was so rainy that the weather forecasters actually named the storm. They called it Storm Alex. And in the autumn, we get an awful lot more rainy weather, an awful lot more wet. And that means that it's usually a lot colder as well. And instead of wearing a t-shirt, I've got my warm hoodie on, and I've got a hat on as well to make sure that I keep warm. So that's another sign of autumn for us, the fact that it's really wet weather and the fact that it's getting colder as well. And I certainly saw on Friday, when it was a bit chilly, there were lots of people who were wearing sensible thick gloves and scarves and hats and coats. And it was really nice to see. Now, I've just come across this bit in the forest, and I wasn't going to talk about this again at this point. How beautiful is that, though? Look at that, with those beautiful autumn colours and the sun behind. It's even better when I'm not in the picture. But isn't that absolutely amazing? So, it's really, really lovely. So just because it's autumn and it's getting a little bit darker at night, or it's a bit colder or a bit wet, doesn't mean that it's not absolutely beautiful, because to be out and about on an autumn walk is a really, really fantastic thing. I'm a bit further on with my walk, and I think Leah is busy trying not to go through that puddle. Now remember I said there's lots of water. Well, in this case we've got massive, massive puddles all the way over the path, and a white dog, and she's going to have to go through all of that mud, and all of that because of the rain that we had over the weekend. So that's a sign of autumn, and that's just going to mean that Leah, oh there we go, is going to need a bath. Bit more mud in the forest here. We've gone through that last bit that you saw, and I don't know why, Everybody just has different bits of places that they really, really like. And it could be the fact that you've got the trees and the sun behind it and the blue skies. It could be the path. But this is absolutely one of my favourite parts of the forest. So I'm going to show you, and it's probably about half a mile long, which is going to take me 10 minutes to walk through. So I'm going to see if I can speed the video up so that you can see it and see how lovely it all looks. So there we go, that was a quick walk through one of my favourite bits of Delamere Forest. And the reason I showed you that is because the autumn is a really good time to get out and about and to see the countryside, see nature at its absolute best. And there's lots of lovely places to come. There's lots of free parking if you park in the right places in Delamere Forest. Marbury Park isn't far away, and that's a really lovely place to go to as well. So the final thing, I'm going to set you a challenge. This is actually harder than it sounds. I've tried this and it's not easy. Now at the moment the leaves in the trees are fairly green, so they're not going to fall off very readily, but when you see leaves that are falling to the ground, I want you to see if you can catch one. And because they twirl and tumble all over the place, it's actually really difficult to do. So give yourself a challenge, see if you can wait under a tree and actually catch that leaf as it falls down, okay? And then come and find me, tell me if you manage to do it, okay? Another assembly about autumn on Wednesday. Have a lovely rest of the day.